Welcome back, everyone. We are at No Studios doing our live streaming interviews of No Studio members. I'm Beth Ridley, your host. Getting a little punchy because I've been doing this since 1 p.m., but the stories are so inspiring. Honestly, I could keep doing this forever. Today, right now, we are sitting down with Ian McCullough, and he's got an interesting story, and I would also say family and friends and fans are here in the studio cheering Ian on. Can I hear from everybody? And I said, hey, since y'all know Ian from way back, I think we've got a sister and a family friend, what kind of interesting tidbits or dirt do you have on Ian? And apparently your sister said that you used to throw up on the bus every morning. And
not
you said,
every morning.
That's not dirt, that's a condition. What's up with that, Ian?
I think it's all the sugar from the morning breakfasts. In retrospect, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what it was. My mom was just like, I'm going to give everyone waffles and syrup and she just wanted everyone to have what she couldn't have when she was growing up, but with the pervasiveness of sugar now, I think my body wasn't made for it.
Somehow all the parents always get blamed, and I'm sensitive to that because it's like it always comes back to the mom did something wrong. Anyway, so
she did plenty of things right. That's just the one thing.
So Ian McCullough, and you go by Cullah, right?
Yep.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
And you were one of my first podcast interviewees. So if you like the discussion, the short discussion that I'm having you with Ian right now, definitely go to the No Studios website because you can hear the longer form interview that I had with you. And what I really found interesting about your interview is you have two interests and passions, one around computer engineering and one around music. And you found really creative ways to blend the two. That actually wasn't always the case. And I think you had those two passions, one, because your dad was an engineer, and two, your mom was really musical. So tell us a little bit about the household you grew up in, your background, and how these two that started out as divergent paths eventually came together in a career.
Well, it all began, when I was little, I had and still do have a big family, and it's ever growing. It's a very, very large family. I have 5 brothers and sisters, but my mother's one of 17, and my dad's one of 8. And so almost in every neighborhood in Milwaukee or in surrounding cities and states, we have some family member somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if there's one here at this festival, and I just didn't notice them. But the music was everywhere on my mom's side, like you mentioned. She wasn't really just musical. She was, the entire 17 of them was in a family band called the Wolf Family Band. And it was very Von Trapp style, kind of. They got up, but with lots of Catholicism in there. And so they would wake up every day and they would rehearse all constantly. They would all be working together, and they were in a big band. So a big band is like a specific type of jazz music that with huge orchestras of horns and woodwinds and drummer and stuff. And so the 17, I don't think they all ever were performed at once, but mostly a combination of all of them. And so I was, my mom likes to talk a lot about that. I was in the womb as she was performing even. And so when she likes to say in every cell division was some harmony and some jazz. But yeah, then my dad was he kind of was very interested in mathematics and reason and logic and as well as nature and kind of understanding those philosophies of conservationism and physics and astronomy and all the very, very close to math and science and stuff. And so I think, but yeah, eventually I fell in love with both those things and eventually found this kind of beautiful harmony between those two things and how they intersect, because I'm passionate about both of them. So
it's kind of interesting. I don't think a lot of people sort of simultaneously are exposed to sort of mathematic, engineering, reason, structure, and also creative arts. Sometimes it's like one versus the other, or they battle against. But I think just because of the family you grew up in, it probably felt to you very seamless, very normal to be tapped into both in the left and the right side of the brain.
Yeah, I don't think there's much difference, to be honest. Like I think they're just different ways to solve the same problem, and like I think they don't just complement each other. I think they really are. Everything is kind of the same. It's just different ways to approach one thing, and they have their strengths and weaknesses, of course. But I think the best engineers and scientists are those who can be incredibly creative, and the best creatives are those who can be incredibly industrious and can think and can they have to be able to envision and problem solve through coming through their creative process. So I think I know what you mean. There's always been that, like, with the left brain and the right brain,
Right.
and there are two different personality traits and stuff. But I think I don't know. Maybe it's because I grew up in both of them. I just think that they're very similar.
Yeah,
but
I think for you, it seems more natural to have a complete integration of the left and the right brain, of the art and the science. I just don't think that for a lot of people that it is that seamless or that intuitive. But nonetheless, that's what makes you Cullah. Cullah, yeah, right, yeah. Fans out there. Tell us a little bit about your music. And actually, I do want to, one thing, because when I interviewed you earlier, it always stuck with me that you have this tradition of every year on your birthday for the past 13 years, you release a new album. And they may always be different, but your philosophy is you should create on your day of creation. So tell us a little bit about your music. And I don't know when your birthday is, but if you think about your next birthday coming up, what might the fans be in a treat for that you're going to release on your birthday?
Yeah, I started doing it. I didn't intend to do it every year, really, until much later after the ball started rolling, and just kept being able to do it, and so it became a tradition, like you said. And now I don't know when it would stop. At least now it seems like there's a lot of momentum going that way, and at least for me and my passion, I don't see it anytime soon. And you mentioned next year. I did just release it on April 27th, which is my birthday.
Okay.
So we just finished a tour with the band, the Comrades I've been playing with, and we went to California and all around the Midwest. And tonight actually will be our homecoming
Yes.
performance later here right on this stage. But next year, I already have like 4 songs written
Okay.
for next year, and some of them are loose. There's going to be a lot more of kind of. I've heard some feedback from a couple songs that were more nurturing and breathing and like a lot more acoustic stuff, and I've been gravitating towards that a lot. But right now I was just talking to my sister. I have a song about a consciousness that is grows inside of a digital world, and then kind of transcends that, kind of like an AI kind of maybe, and then becomes a leader in our reality.
So there you go again with your artistic self and your engineering self. You just can't help
there
yourself.
it is. Yeah, so there's that, and then there's also a lot of. I'm writing a song about a roly-poly working all day under a stone, and he's trying to get home to his family to see them after a hard day's work.
Oh, that's hilarious. So I don't even want to ask, like, how would you describe your music? Because you really don't pin yourself into a particular genre. It's probably really hard to describe. Because you were telling me one of the albums that you have, it's, a combination of bluegrass and rap. I was like, okay. So because your interests are so vast, because you incorporate so many disciplines and styles, is there a way that you would describe your music? Like, what's your elevator speech that you might give someone, or do you not even try?
I've tried. I'm still figuring it out. Someone said, "Oh, it's what genres don't you play? That would be easier." And I get some of that, but I think I would describe my music more in, if there's overarching, maybe I try to tell stories, maybe more of a narrative focus, using all the love I have for so much fiction and fairy tales and storytelling, and even a lot of religious scriptures and stuff, and just things that inspire me, philosophy and stuff. I try to either have a message or tell a story, and the medium isn't really, like, which style isn't as important to me, and I think it's becoming more and more prevalent. I see it much more around me, and I think it's going to even become even more where genres are going to start to. They already are. I think that they're already fading away, and it's hard to even turn on the radio and be like, what is this? Well,
Right.
there's some dominant things in each, like there are dominant styles, like there's dominant styles in my singing of things that I've listened to, artists that I look up to. There are dominant forms that I've used, whether it's hip hop or a bluegrass form, or even a spiritual form, or even just free form and stuff. So the genres and styles aren't necessarily what I focus on. Like when I create, it's just, I know that I have a lot of subconscious, reiteration of all the music that I've listened to my entire life.
Yeah.
And so they just come out naturally.
Yeah.
And I think the more and more people, and I think it started with radio and vinyl and everything, but now with the internet, it's just a whole nother level.
Right.
People are growing up, and they can have a playlist, and every single song could be a completely different era and a completely different genre, and it could be everything. And that's becoming much more norm. And I think
Right.
it only makes sense to me that new artists would reflect that new norm.
Yeah.
And so I think that it actually is appealing to a lot of people. At first, the common sense thing would be like, oh, just stick to one thing that you're good at. Like, don't ruin a good thing you have. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, that seems to be one of their most interesting connections they have with my
Yeah.
music, is that it's all over the place.
That's interesting. So you're kind of like maybe like leading the charge, a little bit cutting edge around the integration of a lot of different genres and bleeding into one another. And I think that what's really interesting about that is just the embracing the diversity of it all, and starting first with the storytelling, and then letting the form of the music take its cue from the storytelling. I would imagine in order to pull that off, collaboration is really important, because you're needing to bring in people who have all these different styles to help tell the story. How is being a member of No Studios helping you and supporting you with your collaboration?
Oh, well, in Now Studios, there's an endless, like it seems, supply of talented individuals across the board, musicians and filmmakers, and I know that I've been working with people even creatives in software and graphic design and stuff that in that end I think just a couple. Actually, it was during the interview we came, and there was someone here who was a filmmaker, and we had a discussion about potentially even me writing a score for a comedy that he was a film that he was going to pitch to a client. Just as he wanted me to write something, and I went right on tour the next day, and I wasn't able to send him anything. But just having that moment, just coming, all of a sudden, there's an opportunity there to meet someone that you can do some cool things with, just like that. Just from one of the few times I've been here, in that since then.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that I thought was super interesting about you, that was a key takeaway for me, is that you have this philosophy of like it's a long-term game, that you're not so much focused on the win for today, but your career in music long-term. And part of that gets expressed with this whole philosophy around, what's the word for it? It's not open architecture. Is it open architecture?
Open source.
Open source.
That's
Open source. So you create a lot of music, and you actually willingly give it away for free. It comes back to you because that's what your fans really appreciate and love about you, and then ultimately you do get paid for the work that you do, but you're not going in saying, I'm creating this music and I'm expecting to get paid. You're creating this music to put out there in the universe so that other creatives can use it and then build upon that. So I don't know, maybe just talk a little bit about where does that mindset come from, and why do you embrace it? Why has it worked for you?
I think it comes from that balance, I think, of the creative and the logical aspects of things, where I really fell in love with the works of Buckminster Fuller and all these engineers who were able to do so much with so little, and kind of expose a lot of our mindsets and the myths that we live in today, and the kind of this consumer mindset and the scarcity mindset, which is built into our socioeconomic system through the whole cloth, is that there's not enough to go around, and that everyone should be fighting against each other to try to compete. But that's just look around, and anyone can create an album in their phone or on their computer. There's plenty to go around. So I feel like I'm just reacting to the reality. Like I think that when I observe and I see what the sheer number of amazing creatives and things that are happening, we're in access to all them, that I feel like I would be fighting it if I were to to not embrace that abundance mindset, or that kind of rejection of the scarcity mindset, because I just don't think it's reflecting. And maybe that's because I grew up with computers and stuff, and I was able to see, okay, well, here's my mom has a small business, and I remember she had whole filing cabinets of things that she had to keep members by paper and sort them all in a filing cabinet. And I was like, I was just a kid, but I know that can be done like that with a computer. And these are just the first steps. So I can only imagine what there's just going to be more and more music. There's going to be more and more genres, more and more blending, and it's just I don't know what it's. I think it's very exciting to me, but like I said, I think I would be fighting it if I didn't embrace that.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So like the abundance mindset, the integration of genres, it seems like you're sort of on the leading edge of a lot of these philosophies. Who do you look to then for inspiration? To me, it seems like you're already out there, but are you looking to anyone who is like even more out there with some of these philosophies that you really admire and respect, that is helping to shape the way that you think about music?
I think a lot of the mindset I was just talking about maybe isn't I don't hear it as much in music, but I know Radiohead has had that mindset a lot. But they're very interesting, and they've started to do the pay what you want type of thing, and it was a big controversial thing for them to be like, no, we're making this new album, but you're going to be able to pay whatever you want, even if it's nothing, you can still get it. But they don't go so far as to let people license it. But they're great thinkers, and maybe it's from the computer science aspects of things. Lawrence Lessig, who is a great professor of economics, and he's a lawyer, and he and Aaron Swartz, who's a co-founder of Reddit, who tragically hung himself a little bit ago. They were the forefathers of Creative Commons, and of kind of freeing their whole idea is about freeing the culture, freeing it from a lot of these things, because it's either that or it does. I mean, there is movement in Washington, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be able to reflect. Well, there was one bill that was passed, for Music Modernization Act. So some things are changing, but it's already still another 20 years behind.
Yeah.
So intellectual property laws has just become such a hard game to play, like I said. So for me, as starting, especially just as starting up when I was making my music, there was no way I was going to even touch that stuff. So it wasn't just philosophically making sense; it also practically made sense.
Gotcha. All right, so you're going to be performing upstairs in the rooftop lounge, I presume, or down here on this stage, right where we're sitting in a little bit. What can your fans expect? What are you going to bring tonight?
Well, we just went on a full tour, so we're all well-oiled. We're a well-oiled machine. We got a lot of songs from the new album, a lot of old songs. We're going to play one song that we haven't played in a long time. Monica's here. She's probably, what song is that? I don't know. She's sometimes we throw in some curveballs, and so we'll be just as surprised,
I love it. So we are not live streaming your concert, so if you do want to hear it, you got to get down here in person. So get in the car. You can hear my last interview. Do not delay. You're on stage in just a little bit here at No Studios. And before we let you go, Ian, sister and family friend, give me one more good, juicy nugget, something about Ian that the world wants to know. His favorite colors. I think I want to go back to used to throw up on the bus every morning. That's just like a little bit more. That's just like a little bit more interesting, right? So. Yeah. Oh, so there was like a complete shakedown of your younger siblings for lunch money, Ian, that you're a horrible person.
I don't know about lunch money.
Oh my God. Cut this interview off. You're horrible.
None of us ever had any lunch money.
We're stopping this interview right now. This is over. This is done. This is done. Ian, I don't know. Thanks, I suppose. I don't know. I have some money there. I bought you that coffee, so we're even. It was a pleasure having the opportunity to interview you again. I always learn something new every time I talk to you. Very much looking forward to your concert tonight. If you can make it here live, please do so. If not, keep listening. We have one more guest to interview, and she is going to be fantastic. So don't go away. We'll be right back.